if we do our work strategically and effectively and all the forces align, we may actually get to see somebody move to this stage, but sometimes people move on and someone else takes over the work. And I think that is another thing. It's very gratifying when we work with people in action and they actually start something or stop something that we're working with them. But a lot of times we don't acknowledge what must have happened before we got there. And in the same way, when we do have to work with someone, we may work with a person in denial and they may leave us at the exact same place. Does that mean we didn't accomplish anything? Well, I believe the helping relationship helps at every stage of change, every time. It lays down the layers of work that may need to be done to help somebody move to the next level. Now, Teresa started a walking program. She's on her way to a 5K. Who knows how many influencers it took throughout her life to get her to the point where she's just ready and excited to be a regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday exerciser without fail. One of the items for contemplation is that most people will need a lot of start attempts before they add in a new behavior or stop something that they want to stop. So contemplation, the stage, and obviously for our time we're simplifying things significantly, but if it excites you, you can always go look and read and get more, and the book would be a great place to start. But if we are working with somebody, and a lot of times we're working with people in contemplation because wishful thinkers show up in therapist's office and show up at classes and have goals, and wishful thinkers set New Year's resolutions to eat more veggies and start an exercise program and do things that are healthy for them. And what they need to help them succeed in the wishful thinking is to build their skills and their self-confidence. So when we are working with people, this is a pretty much way more fun place to work with people than denial, because these are people, they might not be ready for change, but their percent chance of moving from this stage into action is much greater, and they're really just one little easy stage away from actually making a difference in their outcomes. So usually when we work with people in contemplation, they already have a pretty good buildup of discouragement because they have probably tried and failed. The statistics on quitting smoking used to be that it would take about a dozen quit attempts before a person would achieve a non-smoking state of health that would last. So before they would really get to maintenance and termination of smoking, they might have to make 12 quit attempts. Well, it takes just an incredible amount of discipline to set 12 dates and quit 12 times and not to give up after 5 or 2. So at this point, though, we may have to work with somebody who's got a lot of built up information about what hasn't worked. That actually is some of the most useful stuff to work with to help a person change, because they will readily work with you to identify their obstacles because they've already learned them from experience. And being able to overcome those obstacles is part of the helping relationship at this stage. At the stage of contemplation, anything that builds self-confidence and skills is going to be a help. And one of the things that Teresa told me is that her husband ran a marathon. It was on his bucket list, and even though he wasn't a kind of traditional runner, and I guess by that you mean he didn't start like in high school or something, he became a marathon runner through the influence, for one thing, of a helper who didn't just tell him that he could do it, although that was huge because somehow his belief in Teresa's husband to run a marathon was very heartfelt and authentic, and it came across, but also he ran with him. So buddies are tremendous at this stage. So you can take two wishful thinkers and put them together to work together, and the accountability that they share with each other can help them to become successful in an action stage. And this is particularly true of exercise.
I just want to go back to the pre-contemplation stage really, really quick, because it just dawned on me when you were talking that if they show up in my office, they want something.
Good point. They really are almost there, right?
I have a lot of mandated clients that show up and they will choose incarceration. So,
oh my gosh, thank you.
They want something.
If they show up at all in our office with us, then because plenty of people are mandated to treatment and don't do it. I mean, I just heard a story today, a very sad story of that supports what you said. So just the fact that they showed up, that can shore up, really the work that we do, half of the work we're doing with ourselves, and that's why we often talk about the transactional assumption that the work that we do with people involves both of us, but you're all mostly therapists, so I don't have to tell you that. But for a nurse, that was like a light bulb turning on when I figured that out, but thank you very much for that. So anything that helps to build skills and self-confidence is an intervention to consider for contemplation. The better you know the person, the better you can help them, because as soon as you start taking the lessons learned from past failures and planning what to do next, you've actually eased out of contemplation into preparation. So when you're here and you have people engaged in the work, they're really done with this stage. This is really the stage where a person wants to change but does not believe it's possible and might not even take any steps. If somebody just pays for their gym membership, they're probably easing out of contemplation into preparation. So here, classes are a big help. Sometimes if a person is a reader, giving them books or articles to read can help, and buddies are a huge help. So you can take two people that are wishful thinkers, contemplators, and help and work with them together, and their chances go up quite a bit from having a buddy, and especially for exercise. There's lots of other things. If you know what you want to work on, if you know that it's exercise, you can do some reading and look at what will statistically increase the chance that you'll stay with it. For example, if you are going to use a gym, the closer it is in miles or fractions of miles to your home, the more likely that you'll stay with it. It's the one, real tried and true distinction for that. So now we get to the point where we're really starting to talk about some of the most fun people to work with, and those are people that are in the very early stages of action, getting ready to make a change or actually making a change. And I've probably already told you some of the key things about this stage, but here a person will identify their supports and possibly identify triggers that would be obstacles for them and come up with a plan for how to succeed and how to address the obstacles. So this is a place where the helping relationship makes a tremendous amount of change, because for one thing, it takes a lot of work to get to this point, and so being able to be affirmed and acknowledged for the work that the person has already done is an exciting part of the role, and then also helping them continue with their momentum. Now, probably every person in this room started a new habit and didn't finish it. And I won't make you give me a show of hands, but because that's just discouraging. But we've all set a New Year's resolution. I've all, failed, to keep it. I don't understand. The one thing about New Year's resolutions I really don't get is why they sell Girl Scout cookies in February. I mean, I just barely got going, and I have a major obstacle. This was the first year, 2013, that I was able not to buy Girl Scout cookies in 20 years of trying not to buy Girl Scout cookies. Because for one, the Girl Scouts are so adorable and precious, and they're all related to us, or they're someone's godchild, or they're my godchild. And so I feel that I must buy them. Last year we bought them, but we left them with the kids, so that was getting one step closer. I should make this a good example of the stages of change. But this year I didn't eat one single Girl Scout cookie, and I won't tell you how I rewarded myself for that. Orange cup, okay, that's what it was. So when people are to this stage, they have a very high statistical probability of going into action, but they're still very, very vulnerable, and they still can benefit from the helping relationship. And that you may be working with a lot of people at this stage of change, and not that they're not frustrating, because this is probably where we see the beginning, the first 6 months of the new behavior, starting the new behavior, stopping the old behavior is action, but we're very vulnerable in this stage to relapse. So we're going to talk about that a little bit in just a minute. But at the preparation stage, people reflect on the past failures, and they prepare to go forward. And depending on how many steps they need to break that into, we can be lots of help to them. But this is a stage of change where we might encourage them to join a group. So this is a stage where all the self-help groups will become instrumental to the person. Not that you couldn't recommend AA, NA, or any Al-Anon, any of the others at contemplation, but definitely as a person eases out of contemplation into action, they're going to have a tremendous potential to actually follow through on a recommendation to join a group. They're not going to feel as self-conscious to join a group. Those groups are not judgmental, and those groups are very affirming of people coming in, but you can't know that till you go to one. And so that's why we might not always see people in pre-contemplation or early contemplation making it into a self-help group. But if we get them to the beginning of action, if we get them to the edge of action with preparation, we probably have a very good chance to get them into a self-help group. And this is also a time that we can work with people if you're in a physical, and I mentioned that we would talk about starting an exercise program as one example. So if you're working with someone to help them get started on an exercise program, this is where you are going to actually sit with them and talk about shoes and clothes for the journey, and do they have things they can already use? Because at this point, people are not confident enough to make a big investment usually, and a lot of the people that we work with just don't have a big investment to make. So practical decisions like what of your shoes and socks and clothes can you use to start walking, and do you live in a safe enough neighborhood where you can leave your house, walk a quarter mile from your house and back to your house for a half-mile walk? And if you don't live in a safe enough neighborhood, what are the options available for you? How to use a car to measure out a quarter mile or a half mile, how to figure out if you should take a 10-minute walk or a 20-minute walk the first day based on the overall health and wellness of the person. And also, for all of those decisions, what is really the most difficult decision for a person starting an exercise program? It's not going to be what shoes they wear and whether their neighborhood is safe enough, but like how to work it into a busy life. So it's a time management decision. And so if I was working with somebody on this, I might ask them, when do you regularly shower? And just about everybody does that once a day, thank goodness. And so timing their exercise to their shower, it's a lot more time consuming if you become a walker in South Texas and it's super hot, and that adds a whole nother shower and hair dry and all these things to your day, a whole nother change of clothes. So most people though, a lot of people are morning shower people, so that means they're going to need to get up earlier to walk. And so really, I'm not going to be working with them on what it takes to get up early in the morning. I'm maybe more going to be working with them on how to get to bed at night in time, get all the work and the chores done in time, to get to bed in time, to get 7 or 8 hours in, to get up 30 minutes earlier to get a 20-minute walk in. So that's one example of the kind of work that we do in preparation, and probably not the regular kind of work that we do all the time as social workers or therapists, but it's an easier example. If I have somebody quitting smoking, and lots of great programs have already been built on this change model, so this might be the stage where we decide if the nicotine replacement is going to be patch or gum, and how much you're going to need, and how that's going to work, and where you're going to get it, and maybe even get them into a class where they have the combination of picking up their patches and getting their training in one day.